Whew.
Hello. So, David, in the 2 seconds before we started recording, you told me that you said, well, that was odd. And I was like, well, what do you mean odd? And then like, well, let's do the video. So go ahead.
Yeah.
What was odd to you?
No, the man with no name showing a little bit of a character turn here and actually giving a shit. It's good.
Well, I assume he's giving a shit because he found
It,
out his friend was alive.
yeah. Immediately springing into action and waiting 0 seconds to do anything, and then almost immediately taking out one of the remaining demons. So,
Well, to me, that wasn't really a shocking thing or out of character because if you remember how quickly he was able to dispatch, the wild ones on the way here, and you got to remember too, this guy's had 13 years of experience of nothing but kind of like going in and out of this shelter. Probably, you even theorized at one point that maybe he made multiple trips to Goldie Pond to try to see if he could get in there. So I mean,
yeah.
to me, he has the experience
He
necessary, and
definitely
he even
has the
said,
experience necessary. It's just like would have liked to have seen a little bit more there, you know. But it's just a minor complaint. It's still a very good chapter. Don't you dare go off alarm. um, but it's just one of those things where like the man with no name is just one of these characters that's been surrounded by mystery. Basically no interactions with anybody aside from our main cast
mm.
until now. I would like to have seen him, do a little more discussing with the the person here that actually came and approached them in the last chapter. A little bit more there, a little bit more of like you're fucking moron, you're doing this all wrong kind of thing, because that would be more of what he would.
I mean, we might have that. I think that I don't know. I think that I can see where you're coming from, and maybe that you wanted like a full strategic thing with them. But
Exactly.
honestly, considering we've been complaining about it being kind of too dragged out, I thought it was a nice welcome change of pace.
Yeah. But he strikes me more of the more methodical character, whereas the kids would be like all over the fucking place, you know.
Hmm. Well, I personally didn't have a problem with it, but so let's see here. So Nigel runs up to Adam. He's clearly trying to get to Emma, and as we see at the end of the chapter, Emma still has no one there. So I assume we're gonna have one of those like at the last second he'll run up, or
Oh yeah.
even Emma might even have to 1v1 Lewis for like a couple seconds before he gets there. Let's see. So I do kind of I really like this moment where Violet is and yes, I know this one's name because she's done shit. Violet it actually, within only like a couple sentences, basically conveys everything that she wants to, and they make this very clear. It's like not only does Ray understand immediately, but so does the man with no name. And this kind of reminded me how long it's been since we've seen Ray and how smart he is, and it was interesting because after this happened, and she was kind of like, wow, this kid immediately got everything, and I was like, man, it's been so long since we've seen Ray, but yeah, that is kind of what he does, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like, well, fuck, let's go do this shit.
Yeah. So that's cool. And now there's a couple interesting lines here. So what I want to go first to. So let's first of all, no, just kneeing this kid in the face.
Yeah, just
So brutal, dude.
it's like a fucking UFC match in there.
Oh my god.
This kid's not going to be eating solid food if he even is alive at this point for the longest time.
Yeah, I don't know if he's alive. He's been through a lot. Now, there's an interesting line. I'm trying to remember where it is. Yes, okay. So on page 12 on Manga Stream, he says, I will slaughter every last one of you while Noma is still within me. So that almost makes it sound like after, like, when he ate her, it's like she's only going to be within his consciousness for a limited amount of time. Almost like it would pass after a while. And so I was like, what is it, like taking a shit? Like you, the person, and then once you shit them out, they're out of your subconscious? Like, how does that work?
It's very odd.
That's crude, but that's the first thing I thought of, because like, well, she's still within me. Like, what's the time limit? What causes for it to pass?
Yeah, that one. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, I mean, I don't feel anything about it other than it's an interesting lore drop. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, it's more about how the demons getting hints as to how their biology
definitely.
works and how.
This they really need to give a little more here of like not only how long they stay, but more of like how this. Uh, I'm going to call it an ability at this point
Yeah.
because it's shonen still, but how this actually functions. Like, do you have to eat the core? Do you have to actually eat, more of them? What the fuck is going on here? You know,
And to clarify, I have no problem with them slowly building it up. Like, it's not, they don't have to answer it immediately. I
no,
have no problem with
definitely.
them slowly
But
foreshadowing.
for me to actually, care more about this, I need to know more about how this functions.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I wouldn't mind if we got like a fucking light novel just explaining demon lore at this point.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I still hope that they translate that Norman light
Yeah,
novel for.
definitely. Like, as well as the series is selling, it's definitely selling better than Bleach did. So I'm hoping we get them over here stateside.
Is it though? I think you're just pulling that out of your ass and saying that because
It's
I don't think
it's
that's true.
still on the top on Amazon, whereas Bleach never really got top on Amazon. So it's one of those things that I'm like,
It
okay,
might be selling better. I think it might be selling better. Like it might be selling better quicker than Bleach did, but Bleach in its prime was like
oh yeah,
top, like
definitely,
big three material. So I don't know, but like maybe like volumes 1, 2, and 3 sold more than like Bleach's volumes 1, 2, and 3 in the time that we have, like something like that. Maybe I could see, but
and
careful when you're just spouting out
it.
facts without actually checking them there.
But what I'm seeing is them trending on Amazon like in the top slots for manga, whereas when we were supposed to be getting the light novels here for them, we never saw them. So that's giving me hope that we'll get them translated here
Oh yeah,
stateside.
well, because Bleach. I think the thing with Bleach is it kind of it
It
fell
died
out.
off fairly
Yeah.
quickly
So I
during
think
that
by the
final
time Bleach
arc.
ended, my assumption is that by the time Bleach ended, it was just so
It
much less than what it was than the novels didn't come here. You
exactly,
know, like if Bleach ended in the height of its popularity, we might have had more of a chance for the novels to come here. And
yeah.
also keep in mind that all of the volumes of Bleach aren't out in America yet. Like there's 2 more to come out, so maybe we'll still get them. Who knows?
Who
But
knows?
yeah,
That would be
I would hope
nice.
I would hope so, like you said, because I know Promised Neverland is kind of like a hit everywhere, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I see, Viz's page talking about it quite a bit, so that'd be nice, yeah.
And then you take a trip on the Reddit, you see them, on tops of like the manga sales in pretty much every country. So it's really good to see the series doing so well now that it's getting released worldwide. So it gives me hope that we'll get the Norman one and maybe a Demon Lore one down the road.
But honestly, if you're annoyed about the fact that he was able to one shot, one kill this demon, I think that without words, but just using the actions, I think that what he was doing there was the Hunter x Hunter thing,
Oh yeah, it's
where you
definitely
wait.
it's a sniper's mentality. It's just like he knows where to focus in. He knows pretty much everything about it.
Well,
My
it's the whole like the thing that Gon learned in the first arc of Hunter x Hunter was the best way to hunt is to wait until your prey is going after its prey,
mm-hmm.
because then you know exactly, not only is your prey distracted, but you know exactly where your prey is going to be. So he sees him, basically literally choke slamming WWE style this kid, and he's like, okay, well, if he's choke slamming this kid, I know exactly where his face is going to be.
Yep.
So yeah.
My only complaint with this is I would have liked to have seen more from him interacting with Violet and more interacting with our team that we have now before they actually went in there. Or sort of like teaching Violet, like, here's how you take down these massive fucking demons.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I expect that might come.
Oh, I'm sure will come if, the rest of
Yeah.
them survive. Him, like, training them to survive, because at this point, now he knows at least one of his teammates is alive. So he won't be...
Plus, depending on how the fight with Lewis goes,
that too.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they might do it. You remember the fucking final fight in Full Metal Alchemist when like everyone, like it was like the whole like all the characters versus that one dude. So depending on how OP Lewis is gonna be, I'd love just 10-on-1. And Lewis is just like, ah.
Ah, this is for Bayon. This is for you. This is for Noma.
I have no idea if it's gonna be that OP, but I could simultaneously see it and also not see it. It just depends on where they want to go with it.
Exactly. And that's the scary part with this. It's like
I mean, hey, I don't mind.
They could go super dark or they could go super light with this final fight here in this arc. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping they go slightly dark with it. I don't want to.
Oh, me too.
I don't want to see them kill off the ones that have actually done shit, but the ones that have done nothing, fuck them. Kill them off.
Well, at the same time, though, I like deaths that mean something, and deaths that mean something are when you kill off characters that actually do matter to the plot. So if you're gonna kill someone, I'd rather you actually make us care about them before you kill them.
Exactly, but it's the writer's way of writing off characters that they don't want to actually flesh out as well. I see that aspect of it. I don't give a fuck about any of these anymore. They were just plot devices for this arc. Fuck them.
No, I do love how the man with no name still calls Emma Antenna Girl. I had almost forgotten about that. I was like, oh yeah,
yeah, little hair antenna.
It's adorable. Okay,
it
so
is.
One of the reasons I love this chapter so much is because I've talked about how I really wanted to see like a conversation between Lewis and Emma, like a good one. And I kind of got what I wanted in this chapter when it comes to them having a conversation. I really liked it.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of this chapter as well. It's just like we see him kind of like reiterate the game that was played all those years ago, and at the same time, the little snarky back and forth between them, like none of your comrades have come back either.
Yeah. That was not only was that great, but like there's a couple things that I noticed about this conversation. So one, Lewis notices the whistle thing, which is great, but two, again, we're getting into like some shonen anime type things. It's implied that they can sense each other's presence, which is interesting. Like that means that like there's some form of supernatural thing within the demons, and obviously, I mean, fucking demons. Like, well, we don't know that they still call them. We don't really know what they really are. I think it's been so long that sometimes people can forget that they only call them demons because that's all they had from like reference in their library. They saw like, like mythical creatures of Japanese lore or something, or any lore, I suppose, and they equated them with demons. We don't really know what the fuck they really are. Humans probably call them demons too, but they're still probably just biological creatures. I don't think that they're magic necessarily. I think that, to me, this series is going to go down the direction where everything that's weird about them can be explained through like biological science, personally.
Yeah, this is...
No matter how weird they are, I feel like that still might happen. Like, this feels like a more realistic centric series to me.
Yeah, it's definitely more realistic, but at the same time, I kind of like the whole like we don't know what the fuck they are aspect of it.
Me too. But that's why I get so interested every time we see something like this, where he says, "I can't feel them anymore. I can't." I'm like, well, what does that mean? So I wonder if they have like a weird hive mind thing where they can sense each other. It's just, who knows, man. But no, this is what I really liked, right? Where he was like, my comrades, right? And then so he goes into like their friendship. And remember, me and you talked about how like him and Bayon seem to be pretty good friends from the last from that flashback chapter. Remember?
Yeah.
And I actually I believed their friendship almost immediately. And we even, I don't know if you remember, we made all those jokes about like Lewis being like the squatter friend who's like, I promise I'll get you rent, Bayon, that like really bad influence friend to Bayon.
Yeah, and
so I like this part where he's like, yeah, I'll probably miss them, at least Bayon. And then he talks about how they went on hunts before the promise, and it's cool. They had the same desires. It's just I liked that part a lot. That was probably my favorite part of the chapter because their friendship seemed real to me, and it's interesting, and it shows some human elements to their characters.
Oh yeah,
and it kind of, to me, just redoubles down the headcanon of him being kind of like that bad influence friend. Where like, because to me from that flashback a while back, it seemed like Bayon really wanted it, but he wasn't willing to break the promise. But it was like a secret desire he wanted, and then Lewis came in and he was like, "Come on, I'll help you break the promise.
I'll help you do it.
So like,
it's okay."
They seem to be like, it's like, the classic story too, where you see like an innocent, easily corruptible person, and then like some like bad influence friend comes in and they become like drug buddies. You've seen that in like every show ever, right?
Yeah.
It's like they come in and like, "Come on, try this cocaine, man."
Or in mine and Thurman's case, go on, try Tinder.
But yeah, so Lewis and him had an interesting relationship, and it was great to see them talk about that.
Hashtag regretting
and then we
that
have
now.
the classic anime speed blitz, teleports behind you, Nani.
It's beautiful.
Nani.
It's
Oh,
like, oh shit, and I was just like, what the fuck?
bro. So he's fast. No bueno. I also like the metaphor, you are rabbits who brought down tigers, which is a good metaphor. It really shows what they've done.
But can she take down the monkey?
Monkey. But yeah, so he's counting down. We know for a fact Nigel's coming to help her, but other than that, well, I suppose since Ray and the man with no name, they just took down their people. So people should be running towards her location at this moment, and which is why I kind of theorized in the first chapter, or the first chapter, that this whole like I'll wait 10 minutes thing started. I was like, it's definitely going to come down to a situation where like she probably has to fight him alone and try to last for like a couple seconds, maybe a minute before people get there, and that'll be kind of like the tension.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to pull some bullshit with the tension. That's what we've been saying the entire time. But what's really weird here to me is like, it seems like we're wrapping this arc up, but it still seems a little bit unfulfilled. I guess that's from like the mixed match pacing that we've gotten from this entire fucking arc.
Yeah. Well, what exactly seems unfulfilled?
Like we've had so many characters introduced, none of them have really been fleshed out. Right. Aside from that, and if you're going, that's one of those things where I'm a stickler for character detail. Like if you're going to introduce a character, fucking at least give us time to give a shit about the character. So that's why I'm hoping like he wipes the floor with half of the fucking cast at this point.
I'm expecting. I mean, just with the pure build up to Lewis, like he's gonna kill like at least. I expect him to like mass kill through like 5-10 people at least.
I'm expecting some Madara level bullshit here, like I've been saying for the longest time. Like I just want to see him fodderize, half the fucking cast.
I need someone to like perfectly like rotoscope over Madara and just put Lewis, and then put like the faces. And now, okay, I want to do like an edit where it's just like Lewis's face over Madara, and then like all the different ninjas are like the different kids, like the.
And there's your next gift to make.
There's something hilarious about imagining that.
Exactly, it's perfect. It's a perfect fucking metaphor for any any fodder kill at this point. Like it's the most memorable in shonen history at this point.
God, well, the reason that was so beautiful, just as a quick aside to that Madara versus all the fucking fodder, they put effort into a fodder battle. I was like, wow. Normally fodder are literally just like, that was like the kind of effort, like like Jackie Chan movies when he's taking down all the fodder people, but he does it in like interesting ways.
Exactly.
That was like the Jackie Chan movie of anime when Madara was taking out the fucking army. It was like, oh.
And the satisfying part about that is like not only is he taking them out, but the way he was taking them out, like they actually put time into animating attacks.
Exactly.
It wasn't just like him speed blitzing them and you're already dead.
You know how many anime it is where they just kind of like ping, and then all their heads are gone or something. Yeah. So I mean, I expect to maybe see something semi akin to that with Lewis here.
And it's also feeling a little bit unfulfilled on like the story aspect. Like we could have learned so much more about how this place functions. We could learn more about how they've actually built all these secret underground tunnels to escape. We know that one exists, but how many of those actually exist?
I was under the impression maybe this is a like there's a misunderstanding with one of us here. I don't know which one of us is right. I had assumed that the tunnels were built by Minerva.
It could be one of those things, but even that, they could have explained like how much of this resort for these demons actually is new and how much of it was actually, put in by Minerva himself. They could have, taken a chapter to explain.
I'm pretty sure the whole thing was built by Minerva, and they just took. That's why it looks like a human village. It was all built by Minerva. It was meant to be a reserve for them, and then like they took it over when Minerva.
Again, there's aspects of this that just make me feel unfulfilled, and this entire arc has been that. And now
I agree, but to me, the unfulfilling parts are more in the characters and the pacing with like the battles and stuff, and the fact that like
there's missing more opportunities. There's missing character opportunities. There's missing, opportunities for learning more about the demons here, because these, like we've been shown, are like high class, at least to what we've been introduced here. So they could have, explained more about how they function. We were getting a little bit of that with the nose and Noma shit, but still, I'm like,
well, out of like the 20 or so characters that were, I haven't counted them, and I assume it was around 20 that were introduced. Like 5 are memorable. That's one of the big. I think that's the biggest problem of the entire arc. But like to me, I think that you might just need to reread the arc, David, because I think that how this place was built and came to be was pretty well explained. That's actually one of the parts that I have a pretty good understanding of, actually.
But they could have explained the Minerva aspect of it a little bit more, like how he built this, why.
You mean like a flashback to him building it?
Yeah, like they could have taken that opportunity to at least give us more of the Minerva lore, and that's one thing that I really like about this. Whenever they go do a flashback chapter,
flashbacks, yeah, it's going full One Piece on us. Flashbacks are the best parts of the series.
Exactly, and that there just leaves me to believe like we're going to learn more post this arc about this, or maybe we'll learn more about how all of the shelters were built in like a flashback chapter. Like this is me, doing the original one where we've left half of our original cast at, or pretty much the entire original cast at, really. And then like, this is how I built the Goldie Pond Reserve. This is how I built, this one that's over here. That would, clear up a little bit of my complaints with this. Like, I want to know how this shit was done. And I also
that comes down to one of the main questions. Well, one of the main concerns that I have is all of the little kids that you saved, right? So all the little kids that actually made it out alive, when we expected, like, I got to be honest, when I first read the first arc, I expected like 5 people. I expected maybe like the main 3 and then Gilda and Don to live. You know what I mean? Because that would, because when you have too many characters, it's ridiculous. So my thing is, I'm pretty sure that all the little kids only lived because Shonen thought, hey, that'd be a bit dark. So my question is, did they only live so that you didn't have to kill them? Or, like a good author, you have a legitimate plan for these characters in the future? That's what I want to know. Are they just going to exist in that bunker for the rest of the story, or do they have shit to do? That's my big one.
Exactly. And when we wrap this arc up, how many of these kids are going to live? Where are they going to go?
Yeah, then there's more fucking useless fucking background characters if they live and they do nothing.
What I'm actually expecting here is, like, once this arc wraps up, and if they kill Lewis, I kind of expect something of like a splinter team. Like, okay, we will have like communication between Goldie Pond and then our bunker, and then
that would make sense. Yeah.
And then the Goldie Pond team being led by like Violet, Nigel, Gillian, all those, them being the main 3 of that, and then continuously like, okay, Goldie Pond team, we need to go, rescue from this shelter. Shit like that. I could see.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that idea. That's actually
like,
a pretty good idea. Because then they'd have like basically their own little mini armies, essentially. Like you could have like the main characters kind of like leading their teams, their squadron.
Exactly.
That's pretty good. I like that.
That's kind of what I've been expecting this entire time. But you also can't have the overabundance of bullshit characters. So it's like, bury your dead.
Yeah,
and then start your mission.
I mean, I guess the question, remind me, so like, let's look at like, if I'm remembering correctly, your favorite anime is Code Geass, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in Code Geass, how many like bullshit fodder characters did Zero have for his army?
There's quite a few, but at least they fleshed them out.
But that was done okay. No, that didn't bother anyone because the author found that balance of, okay, these are just his like numbers essentially, and you don't need to know about them.
And but it seems like some of them actually, had at least some form of a backstory. Like we had some. It's like,
no, I'm talking about like completely unnamed. I'm talking
unnamed,
like water soldier.
There was a few.
Right. So like, and that's okay though, because if you're gonna have an army, there's no way you can. Name all of them. So my thing is, I think this author is caught between. He can't decide whether or not he wants to develop them or not.
Exactly. So it's the shonen imbalance of like we know we need characters to flesh out the story, but we also don't know if we need to actually name them or give them a compelling backstory, or if we just want them to be foot soldiers.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind them being foot soldiers because the idea you just said about them having like squadrons, I think that's a really good idea. And we can slowly. You just got to make sure not to fall into the trap of the Naruto Final War, where basically like Kishimoto was trying to develop them by giving them fights, but at that point it was way too late, so that like no one cared about them, so that those fights were so boring because they were with characters that no one cared about. You got to make us care about characters before they're in a fight.
Exactly.
Because I'm sorry, when a character's in a fight, I want to care about them before that fight, because otherwise I don't care about the fight. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I want to know. A fight becomes truly interesting when you know what the character's ideals and goals are before they step into the fight. You know what the fight is for. You can't just like jump right into like okay, and here that's why the ones I cared about are the ones we got a little bit of like development for before the action started, because we had a couple of those chapters where they were talking in the bunker and stuff like that. Those chapters, in my opinion, should have gone on a little longer, where Emma got to like talk to almost like maybe like all of the group at some point, you know?
Yeah, and especially like you said the last time, like if we would have had the original, raid on the Goldie Pond, the day it was supposed to happen instead of early, we could have potentially got more of that. But it almost felt like Jump was like, no, we want
Yeah,
fights.
yeah. That's what I was expecting to get that, like, because remember they were like preparing and shit, and then it was like, oh shit, they're coming now, and I assumed that the whole like while they were preparing, that was going to be the moment where Emma talked to them and learned more about them, and
Exactly, and that would have made us care more about some of these, essentially what I'm assuming at this point are just going to be like foot soldiers. Like, here's generic character B. Oh shit, they died to a beast demon.
Who knows, man? It's just when this author does characters right, they're really good, and when he focuses on something, it's really good. But it seems like he's just kind of. It seems like he's like pulling his resources in like every direction, and he can't decide what he wants to do. But he has to choose something, otherwise everything's going to suffer.
Exactly, and
again, this isn't me like saying this chapter I thought was good, but it's just I'm concerned about all these like characters that have like no development, I guess.
And
like how is
also
it that
saw we saw a little bit of it. Some of the characters in the original arc. We don't know a whole lot about them either, aside from they shared a similar place of living, and we saw.
Yeah, there was similar issues with like. I remember even in the first arc, as much as I love it, there were moments where like a kid would pop up, and I'd be like, "Have we seen that kid before?"
Right.
Like it felt like there was a new kid every turn. It's like, chill. You don't need that many characters. Quality over quantity.
Exactly. I mean, and this is coming from somebody that likes, One Piece, And,
oh yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. So how is it that Oda, it's clearly like you can't say it's just impossible, because if you're talented enough, you can't. Oda makes the most random characters in the pirate groups developed. Like I know more about like. I'm trying to think of like a random fuck up. Like okay, Oven from the Big Mom Pirates, Bobbin. How about Ben Beckman from Shanks' crew? Like you get more of a feel for their personality, even though they've barely even shown up. It's just, and I think that's because this author wastes a lot of time on, instead of like good character interaction, where the characters are literally talking back and forth in like a realistic way. There's a lot of that whole like restating their goal, as we've talked about before, where it's like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna fight. Oh my god, he's dying. Oh, like none of that is character development, because it's shit that anyone would say in that situation. So you can't hop someone right into a fight and then have them be like terrified or that's not character development. That's not getting into their head. Like you can do character development in a fight if they're doing something unique to them that only they would do in a fight. Like let's look at Kenpachi or Hisoka, how they react to a fight. Sure, that's character development, but
or look at even Gillian, dual wielding fucking machine guns.
Yeah. That's another example. But for most, makes them unique as a people isn't going to come from a fight. It's going to come from dialogue between two people, and we didn't get a lot of that with them.
Yeah, and hopefully we see more of that as this major fight here, begins, because obviously we're going to have the majority of the crew here in this fight, aside from those that are on the injured reserve list right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that after this arc, we get like a really long arc with no action at all. Just like a long arc where the characters are able to interact, build themselves up, and make us care about them more, and a bunch more lore drop.
Yeah, and that there, would be ideal for any shonen series right now, because a lot of the modern shonen aren't getting as much of the character development because of how Shonen Jump's actually being run currently. It's sad, but it's true. Like, even Thurman's complained about Black Clover recently. So, if that's the state of Jump,
Well,
aside
I gotta
from
say, it's not like I'm not sure. I still think my theory for this is that it's.
it,
I
I
think that
don't
the
think it's as
editors.
much.
Here, can I hear? Give me a second.
Yeah,
I think that the editors push it, like they try to be like they push an author in a certain direction, but the author doesn't have to say yes or no. It's just if they get peer pressure into it. Because I gotta say, Dr. Stone is almost entirely character interaction.
exactly.
Like that series, like that's why I like it so much. Like the characters are so good, and like it's like the last chapter was just character interaction. So, I mean,
Like,
yeah.
even Horikoshi in My Hero Academia, you
Oh
see
yeah,
a
he's
lot.
doing slice of life shit right now.
Yeah, see, it's the majority of the newer series that have this issue of like we gotta hype up, we gotta hype up, we gotta hype up, and it's the rookie authors that really get this. Like, I want to succeed at being a manga writer, so I gotta listen to my edit. No, you don't have to listen to your fucking editor.
That was Kubo's main thing. When Kubo ended Bleach, they did like a big like interview with him, and they even asked him, "What's your main advice for new authors?" And he was like, "Don't listen to your editors, because if you do, your unique style as an author won't shine through."
Exactly, and when this author shines through, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So
And,
that's really is my assumption that he's probably listening more to his editors than others are. And I think that it's probably because, to my knowledge, he hasn't really written anything other than that one shot, I believe.
yeah, and as
So,
sad
like,
as
I think
that,
he's probably just so like, oh my god, I have a successful manga, and I've spoken to people that have successful shit. Okay, Retro Rhino's a perfect example. Retro Rhino's a dude who wants to animate the final arc of Bleach. He has over 900 a month in Patreon. I asked him on a Discord call. I was like, "Oh, does it feel good to have that?" And he was like, "Actually, it's the opposite. It's immense stress because now that I have the success I wanted, now there's the stress to not fail, not
yep,
let people down." So I see it as this is a guy who got a hit popular series out of nowhere, and now he's like, "Oh my god, what if I let people down? What if I let people down?" And that fear due to, "Oh, you're my editor. You know what you're doing. What do you think I should do?" And he trusts himself and his own instincts less and goes to the editor.
yeah, and that's the really really downside
That's
of.
my assumption, of course. These are all just me speculating.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense at this point because you Retro Rhino's point being, now you don't want to let anybody down, and that's just human nature to not want to disappoint anybody, So
Mm-hmm.
this author, if that's the case here, is so successful at this point that they're letting everything else shine through but themselves, and that's really disappointing. But it's not, you know, unlike humans to actually, go to others like, what do you want to see from me? What do you want to see from the series? What do you want to see me do in my life? What do you want to see
Mm-hmm.
us?
It's one of those like you focus more on pleasing people than actually writing what you want to write.
Yep. And
again, these are all just our theories of to what could be happening because to us, there's a major dip in quality from the first arc to this one, and it's not like it's a bad series by any means. It's still very good. It's just like there's a odd difference in the writing quality, and there's also a lot of moments that David and I see where it could have been great, and then it took a direction that just is odd and doesn't seem like what the author would do.
and you get a feel for an author during their first arc, what they want to actually do with the series. You get a feel for the tone of the series. You get a feel for the tone of how the characters are supposed to interact.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we got to the Goldie Pond arc, we started to see this shift, and it's like, is this the author or is this the editor moment? And that's really kind of the sad, thing that we see a lot of Modern Jump, especially with the younger authors. And, even Tabata and fucking Black Clover, listening to Thurman complain about like how chapters feel different from one to the other it's really like showing that these editors try to dig in way too much again, just like they did during the final arc of Bleach, just like they did, as
Yep.
we progressed with fucking Dragon Ball Z. So it's just jump being jump.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Dragon Ball Z. If you don't know, Dragon Ball Z was the one where he changed villain during the Android arc. He changed the main villain like 5 times. It was originally going to be Jiro and the weird. I think it was Jiro and 19. Then it was 18 and 17, and then it was Cell, and then it was Perfect Cell.
yeah,
because the editor kept being like, their designs are shitty. Their designs are still shitty. Like clearly, the editor wanted another like Frieza type, like a monster alien look. And so that's why he kept pushing him for that. Yeah. Same thing with Bleach. Kubo specifically said that, and this is more proof of editors cutting out character interaction moment. In Bleach, Kubo wanted that first arc where Ichigo was in school being a substitute Shinigami to last way longer. He actually had little side. You know how like in the first arc there was like a side story about Orihime, a side story about Chad, and it was going through, and the first arc was showing all these characters. And Uryu, apparently in the first arc, Kubo was gonna go through a lot more of his classmates and like have side stories with all of them, and Ichigo being a substitute Shinigami for like a couple more chapters, like 10 or 20, even 30, maybe more. But literally, his editor was like, "Cut to the Soul Reapers! Hurry, get to the Soul Reapers!" And yes, that was the most popular arc, but I feel at a sacrifice to more better characters.
And just to further that, like, think how much more meaningful the final arc and how much more meaningful a lot of these characters would have been if they would have been able to explore those backstories a little bit more early on instead of rushing all of that.
Yeah. So I've always been the kind of person to say, let the author, they made the world, they should make all the unless they're specifically asking for help. But here's my in order to be fair, there is a reverse to this, and that's George Lucas. Because if you're going to write any good research paper, you got to show the opposite point too. And the opposite point is the big theory with George Lucas is that in the first 3 Star Wars movies, he had people around him and he would take their advice. But then when he got super big-headed because he was successful, a lot of people that worked on those movies basically said that during the prequels, George Lucas would listen to no one's advice, and basically everyone was too scared to even try to give him advice because he was George Lucas, So
yeah,
that's kind of, so it can backfire if you're too big for your head. So I think like most things in life, it's a balance, and I think that sometimes editors can make good advice. Like I thought Cell was a great villain. But I think that there's got to be that balance where, like, sometimes the author can be like, yeah, that is a good idea, editor. And other times the authors put their foot down and be like, no, this is my series and this is how I want it to go.
Yeah, there's definitely needs to be that middle ground. Like, even as your counterpoint being Lucas, like, he became so successful that not only did he, not listen to anybody's advice during the prequels, but look at how he fucked up even his original trilogy by fucking improving with the special editions, much to the dismay of fans.
Oh my god!
And now,
which makes me almost think that like he looks back at it like George Lucas, like prequel George Lucas and early George Lucas were so different people apparently, because just by the fact that he looks back and says those were shitty, I got to change them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is also the limitation of the technology that he had there at the beginning. So I can see, like, wanting to, touch up, like, special effects, wanting to, do stuff like that, make it look more modern for a new audience in anticipation for the prequels. I could have seen, like, oh, well, I can at least, make the lightsaber a little more flashy, or I can make, the space look better. Shit like that I could have seen. But rotoscoping in, entirely different scenes and then editing...
An extra rock or two.
Like, stuff like that, what the fuck?
Wasn't there one where he added another rock for some
There was
reason?
one where he added a rock. There was one where he added in, more of the dewbacks.
I just always wanted a rock there, but we didn't have the budget.
I didn't have the budget to put a fucking giant rock here.
I didn't have a budget to get a crane and move a rock over there. God.
Or I didn't have the fucking budget to, have 3 dewbacks or 5 dewbacks instead of the 1, it's just like, what the fuck? Dude, chill, your original vision was still perfectly fine, or what you actually had in there was perfectly fine, those
But
movies are
yeah,
still some of the most successful to this date.
before we go too much into Star Wars, I guess predictions on
Yeah.
upcoming chapters
Well,
of
the
Promise.
predictions on the chapters, I think we touched a little bit on. Like, I can see this fight being drug out. Good 4 chapters at least. I picture this arc ending around 90 at this point, just judging on how the pacing's been, like slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. That kind of shit. So I can see it ending right around 90. Lewis is going to fight one-on-one with Emma here for the good first half of the next chapter, and then it'll end with, at least Ray and, them coming in along with, Nigel, like, fuck, maybe Adam can Hulk smash some shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and I hope that I'm trying to remember, like, so I hope that we actually get some interesting shit with Lewis, because Lewis, let's be honest here, out of every character in his arc, we can all agree that Lewis is the best one, right?
Oh yeah.
So, whether or not he's gonna die or not, whether or not he's gonna stay alive and be like a Vegeta type character,
I mean, I'd be okay with him being the Vegeta-like character. I really would. I mean, he has nothing else to live for at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Emma doing the whole like, wait a minute, hold on, kill me now. It's only one hunt because this whole place, this is done. Bayon's gone. You ain't getting more hunts unless you keep us alive and let us get stronger. Channel your inner Hisoka, sir.
I'll fight you wherever, whenever, on your terms.
But yeah, so I mean, I expect if out of every fight and dialogue, this should be the best one. This is clearly the one that the author's been building up to here.
Oh, for sure.
So I am looking forward to it. Lewis is fucking.
And this fight, I want to actually, see at least some fodderization of some of these characters, but I also would like to see, this. I want to know more about Lewis as a person too. That's one of those things that really.
Well, yeah, that's why I liked the page about him, like pondering over if he'd miss if he calls them comrades, if he liked them or not, or
that was a little bit of a little more about him. Like, he'll miss Bayon. He didn't give a fuck about the others. I figured that, but that was pretty much self-deduction there.
I would love to see more about his. I would love to see a whole chapter flashback from him.
Yeah, I mean, they could potentially do that, like how he came to. I want to know about the fucking monkey still. I'm sorry. I want to know about the fucking monkey.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know, how much, he cared about, Bayon. I want to know more about their interaction. I want to know more of, like, the hunt in general at this point. Like, what we actually know is very minuscule compared to what they've actually been talking about here. Like, if these two have been around since before the promise, I want to know if they grew up together. Are there child demons?
Yeah, that's another thing. Biologically speaking, like they have long, and we figured this out from the Bayon flashback, but they have long ass lives. Clearly,
Yeah, but are there babies? Are there?
That's the cure. Yeah, that's the thing. How do they reproduce? What, like, because they seem to live. They seem to be like immune to aging, or
they're
like
kind of like fucking elves in a way.
Yeah, the thing where like you can't die by aging, but you can die by like other things.
Yeah.
Immortal, like not immortal. What's the one? There's a word for it. I don't remember, but yeah.
The viewers kind of get where we're going from there.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're kind of like elves in a sense. Like, they seem to be ageless, but at the same time, they have to come from somewhere.
Oh yeah, certainly.
So
but I'm excited to see.
It's one of those things I'd like to know more about, and we could learn it really well through Lewis and Bayon's story, essentially. So hopefully they have like another flashback of like how they came to be friends, or if they've been friends since they were kids, or
that'd be cool. That'd be real cool. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for both this fight, and I'm hopefully more dialogue with Lewis, learning more about Lewis himself, and whatever comes after this arc, because I think that when we get to a more lore-heavy, story-heavy arc, it could return to its former glory here.
Oh, for sure. And hopefully
more Norman shit at some point.
Yeah. I hope they don't just dump all that into the light novel.
Nah, I think if you're an author, you got to assume that not all your fans will read the light novel. So anything that's imperative to the canon should be in the manga, and then the light novel would be like extra.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, guess that's it.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.